Yeah, what would you say have been key factors in your own success?
Mm, that's a great question. I think feeling the first thing that comes to mind is feeling safe to experiment what works for you. For example, I've had to decondition myself from things that I picked up in the first 2 years of my business. I think it correlates to like this online boom. It was happening around this like online boom of like I was on everyone's Facebook page and consuming everyone's lives of like how what I was supposed to be doing. And I had notebooks and notebooks and notebooks of like what it means to like do business and marketing. And I even did like I had in-person mentors from my hypnosis training and their business expertise and stuff. And it totally works for them for sure. But I was trying it and it wasn't working for me. And I had to feel like I could trust myself enough to say, you know what? If my desire and my intuition has taken me this far, I'm gonna have to like follow my trust and intuition from the information that I've been given, right? Like I've learned so much from amazing mentors, but again, I've had to have discernment to be like not everything is going to be for me just because it's worked for them. So, I think that's number 1 is like having letting myself have that freedom to experiment. Um and kind of to piggyback off of that, number 2 is like continuing to experiment. Like I didn't say, oh, well, this didn't work, so I'm throwing the whole thing away. It was like, okay, this didn't work, but maybe this will, and maybe this will, and maybe this will. And I was just more willing to just try and try and try because I fully have always believed in my vision. I know that if I was given the vision that I was going to live a certain lifestyle or live, do this type of like create this type of ripple effect that I create with my own clients, that it was there for a reason. I couldn't ever imagine turning my back away from that and going back to living like another like kind of, 9 to 5 lifestyle that just wouldn't have felt right to me. Nothing wrong with it. It's just not right to me. So I would say those 2 things. And the number, I mean, gosh, I guess the number 1 is like, or there's no order to it, but the third one might be um, being dedicated to deconditioning work. Being dedicated, I think it doesn't stop. Like it's always going to be at every level from clients that I've mentored that are just starting their business and making their first 6 figures to my clients that are in their 7 figure business. There's always a new level of getting to meet yourself. I don't look at it as like, oh, there's always work to do, or I have all of these blocks. It's like, this is just more and more and more opportunities to meet myself deeply, to understand myself, to hold myself, to love myself. And it's like self love, like it's self love work to do the deconstruction, to do the deconditioning. And with the deconditioning work, it's also not placing for me, it's been not placing blame. It's just understanding that like this is just how it works. Like it's almost like a little bit of a disease. Like once you're conditioned in a certain program, you pass it on to your children and you pass judgment and projections on other people based on your conditioning. And that judgment and projection on other people, those other people feel it and they're like, oh, there must be something wrong with me. Oh, a good example of that is um, having premium prices and other people feeling like you charge that, like, oh wow, people actually pay that. That projection of their own insecurity or their doubt within themselves, that they'd be able to do that, um, that could have very much to the person receiving it been like, oh shit, like should I actually lower my prices? Like, is no one actually going to pay that? Or is that really selfish? Do you see how it's a disease? It's like one person's scarcity goes into someone else and it influences them to be in scarcity, and then they lower their prices, which means they're not showing up to their clients and their containers from the best energy because they're living in scarcity, and then it's a ripple effect and it's a whole thing. So knowing that being in abundance is like the best thing you can do for yourself and those around you. I think grounding into that and being like, me being like rich and happy and healthy is going to be best for my future children. It's best for my partner. It's best for anyone who interacts with me because I get to be a part of a ripple effect. They get to be influenced or be an expander for what else is possible for themselves.
So on that note, do you have a favorite deconditioning and abundance practices that you do on a daily or weekly basis?
Ooh, good question.
Like, are you listening to your own hypnosis tracks?
You know, I kind of go in and out of creating my own hypnotic tracks. Like I'm getting the pull again to be like, yeah, let's create something new. So yes, listening to a customized hypnotic track, of course, makes a difference because you're quite literally reprogramming the nervous system, the energy body, and the mind to be in alignment with the new embodiment, with the new timeline. So there's that. I think the other kind of more like something that you can even do today is just meeting yourself with inquiry. Like when I come up around my own edge, so for, like, let's say for fellow intuitives and healers who are like, oh, I have to do it this way in order to be successful, I would just self inquiry would be like, well, why? Like, where did you learn that? Like, why is that true for you? What do you get out of believing that? Like those three simple questions can open up a lifetime of gold to be like, oh wow, well actually I feel this way because, you know, I was always told not to trust myself and to just like lower my intuition and lower, you know, my like override what I actually want to do. So just self inquiry on a daily basis. It's work that I love doing.
And let's slow that down for people. That was the questions. The three questions were why, where did you learn that, and what do you get out of
And
that?
what do I get out of believing that?
Okay, great,
Mhm.
great. We'll have a list.
And
Right.
if yeah, and if you feel it in your body too, if there's like, I'm feeling really anxious about this launch, or I'm feeling really anxious about, you know, putting this post out, I would tune into my body. I would like locate it. I would put my hand, let's say it's the solar plexus, putting my hand on my solar plexus, and I'm saying, if I could give this body part a voice, what would it tell me right now? If I could give this anxiety a voice, what would it tell me? And you'll be surprised because sometimes when you're just coming from the conscious mind and you're like, oh, I feel anxious, all you can focus on is, oh my God, I feel anxious, this is wrong, danger, danger, danger. But if you actually give yourself the time and space to hear what's underneath that, it can not only alleviate the anxiety, but it can be so informative. It can give you so much feedback as to where you currently are believing, what your current kind of like state of consciousness is around the subject. And that's where you can meet yourself with the inquiry, like, where did I get that? Whose voice is that coming? You know, whose voice is that actually? What if that's not even mine? Is that my voice? When does that coming from? You know, so just continuing with the questions.